Okay.
We're here today on RealAgriculture.com. We're with Crystal Mackay. She is with the Ontario Farm Animal Council. Welcome today, Crystal.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay, Crystal, this week has been, I guess to say it, an interesting week in terms of animal welfare and the treatment of animals. We've out of the U.S. We've had a undercover video released of some activities going on an Ohio dairy farm. You've seen the footage. I've watched it. It's at the very least it's terrible and very disturbing. I guess in your mind, how do we prevent, or what kind of process can we go through to prevent these kind of things from going on?
Well, we'll get to the process and all the prevention stuff later, but I think, you and I have both agreed it's some of the most horrific footage we've ever seen, and definitely not typical of any farm I've ever been on, and, I could barely make myself watch it. So when you're dealing with an individual that'll treat an animal like that, I don't think any amount of programs or education is going to help. Strong laws and putting a guy like that in jail and charging him are the only thing that might teach him a lesson.
Yeah, very true, very true. And I guess that's something that I wrote on the website, is that no I guess certification on the treatment of animal program for farm workers would ever save somebody that is this kind of sadistic to do these things.
That's right, and I think if you look at it, if you think of the population and farmers, as a bell curve with the innovative people and the early adapters up on one end, and then the laggers at the far end, this video is like the last 0.001%. And a lot of the programs and resources I work on are targeting higher levels in the bell curve.
Well, and the interesting thing I think that we're seeing in this instance is not agriculture's reaction is not one of some sort of crazy excuse for how this happened. It's been a very proactive response that this is unacceptable.
That's right, and anyone I've talked to in the industry, including farmers and my own OFAC staff, found it horrific, appalling. This guy needs to be charged to the fullest degree of the law. And I feel we're fortunate enough in Canada and on a provincial basis in Alberta and at home in Ontario to have strong laws that can deal with prosecuting people like that are absolutely guilty and unacceptable behavior.
So how do we communicate the message to the general public in terms of, Wayne Pacelli, who's the head of the HSUS, has commented that, we need to ditch dairy, or ditch milk, that this is, some sort of common practice on farms, where those of us inside the industry know completely that is there's nothing but utter nonsense. How do we deal with that?
Well, I think we, as an industry, every person in the sector needs to become part of the conversation and the dialogue to say this isn't acceptable, this is not typical, and counteract the activist campaigns directly. This is one video; it's the worst of any I've seen, but you could find a whole series of. I can think of about 20 that are basically just like this, undercover footage as part of a bigger campaign, and here's a reason why you shouldn't eat milk, eat eggs, drink or drink milk or eat meat, and so on. So as an industry, we need to take those allegations seriously, and we also need to call the activists on it and say, what, this is not acceptable, and not a reason to give drinking milk because you watch this video.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Crystal, thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll definitely talk to you again in the future.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean.